Oscar, I'm not sure what you said, but I'm sure it was probably a tremendous exaggeration of the truth, but I really appreciate it nonetheless. Thank you for having me talk on this particular topic that I call exporting the American dream. Oops, sorry. Over the last 250,000 years, our diet on planet Earth for humans has changed. Over the last 100 years or so, there's been an increase in the amount of sugar that we're consuming. There's less omega-3 fatty acids. These are the acids that reduce inflammation in our bodies. There's less of the micronutrients and minerals in our food. There's a change in the acid-base balance. So your body heals better when it is alkaline, and when you're sick, your body is acidic, and this balance has changed over the years. There's also been a change in the way the nutrients go in and out of our cells. And lastly, there's been a decrease in the amount of fiber that we consume in our diet. Over the last 60 years, because of industrial agriculture, we want to have greater yields. We want faster maturation of the food. Think about a plant growing. It takes time for the minerals to get from the soil into the plant. If you grow the plant too fast, there's not enough time for these things to get into the plant. So as a result, the nutrients in the plants are low. And we also want the food to stay on the shelf longer, so we put preservatives and various other things in the food. And of course, we do this mechanization because there's less manpower required, it's cheaper, and we have higher productivity. But then the food itself is of lower quality. This is industrial agriculture. And I'm sorry that the slide doesn't project as well, but you can clearly see the pressure on which these animals have to live, and we consume the food from these animals. This is the same thing for pigs. We had sausages tonight. So this is the environment in which the pigs live in. And not to be outdone by someone in Asia, this is how the chickens are raised. In addition to industrial agriculture, this particular study from Britain shows that over the last 50 years, there's been a decline in 20 different fruits and vegetables in terms of the quality of the food. So the question we have to ask ourselves is this industrial agriculture in our best interest or not? Taking the next step, what I'd like you to envision is that Earth is the only lifeboat that we have, right? And yet on a daily basis, we're putting this kind of pollution into the air. So statistically, each and every second, 310 kilograms of toxic chemicals are released into our air, land, and water by industrial facilities around the world. Of these, over 2 million tons, 4.5 billion pounds per year are recognized as carcinogens. This is a map of the United States, and you can see here, the darker the color, the more mercury is in the air and going into the water source. And I just want to bring your attention to this part of the United States. This is called the Mississippi River Valley Delta. The Mississippi River Valley Delta. So look how much of the dark red is located here. So keep your eye, as I show you more and more maps, you're going to see more and more of this. Not to be outdone, this is a map of the various stands, and you can see each one of these that has a radioactive marker is where there was a radioactive waste spill. And you can see that they all ring this waterway right here that goes into another major waterway, that goes into another major waterway, goes into another major waterway. Changing gears a bit, this is the population of the world. This is where we were in 1700. This is where we were in 1800. This is where we were in 1900. This is where we are now. This is a small life raft. This is not a big life raft. This is not sustainable. Something's got to be done with this, because that is the only land mass that we have, and at some point this land mass is not going to be able to sustain this population when it gets up there. So clearly we're seeing our major cities are becoming overpopulated, and our rural areas now are also becoming overpopulated, and the people that are living around our cities are starting to live in slums. 1 billion people, 32% of the global urban population now is living in slums. And this is what we find around the slums. What you can't see is this little guy right here.
Thanks, sir.
The problem is that this material, unfortunately, doesn't stay on the land mass. This material ends up going into the waters, as we'll see in a moment. So the bad news, unfortunately, is that human consumption, by this document here, has directly or indirectly captured nearly 40% of the total biologic productivity of the land and 70% of the productivity in the water. So basically, we're consuming the earth at a rate of approximately 2% per year. That material that I just showed you that was on the land, unfortunately, doesn't stay on the land. It goes into the oceans. And these are 5 major oceans of the world. This is the circulation of those oceans. And this one is the largest one. This is the North Pacific Gyrus. And this North Pacific Gyrus is, unfortunately, this. This is what's floating approximately 1 foot to 2 feet under the water in this gyrus. And each one of the oceans has this. And unfortunately, although the governments of the world know about this, the problem is that it is so profound that we don't have enough money or capacity to do anything about it. So we just let it happen. I don't know how many of you go to Costa Rica, but Costa Rica is unfortunately a misnomer. Costa Rica, right? The problem is, this is a typical beach in Costa Rica. And that material that you just saw in that gyrus comes up on the land. And the people, unfortunately, also in the mountains put all of their waste into the rivers, and it comes into the water, and then the ocean throws it back up on the land. So this actually is a cell, a human cell. And if you actually look at it, it looks like a life raft. And these are the people in the life raft, and these people are actually consuming the components within the life raft. At some point, we are going to consume everything that's available, and this life raft is going to stop sustaining us. It's believed that we're now in our 6th mass extinction. In other words, we're already going extinct here. So the biotic crisis, as a direct result of industrial civilization's disruptive impact on planet Earth, has begun the 6th greatest biologic extinction period in its entire 4.5 billion year history. During the previous extinction events, biodiversity was reduced by 70 to 90%, and it took roughly 5 million years for the Earth to come back. So I'm going to switch gears now and talk about the health of the United States. And this is a map from 1985 up to present. And I want you just to look at the color. In particular, I want you to look at the Mississippi River Valley Delta. And the darker the color gets, it means the fatter America has gotten. So I'll do this quick. Again, the Mississippi River Delta area. And this is a summary slide. So this is where we were in early 90s, and then 2000, 2010. Again, this is obesity. And the exact same thing can be mapped for diabetes. So here's 1990, 95 again. Here's diabetes again, 2001, the Mississippi River Valley Delta. So I'm going to take you around the world. This was a nice expose in National Geographic a few years back. And it went around the world and it showed what people ate, how much the cost was. So look at these folks here. Look at the number of people here. And look at the quality of the food that they're eating and the amount of the food that they're eating. And this is for 1 week. This is for 1 week. So this is in Chad. This is in Bhutan. Look at the number of people. Look at how much they eat. And look at the cost. Ecuador, this guy kills me. I mean, look at all these kids he's got, but he's a happy guy. Again, look at the amount of food and the cost. Now we go to Egypt, and you start seeing some of this stuff right there, and some of that stuff right there, and some of that stuff right there. I was pointing at their bellies, not at the food. So you can start seeing some processed food here. There's still some stuff that grows out of the earth, but there's a lot of processing starting right here. And look at the number of people. The number of people are starting to get less in these pictures, and the cost is starting to go up. 5 people, Poland, cost, and look at the processing now. Mexico, look at the processing across the back. And look at Dad, and look at Junior. Right? The 2 juniors are starting to follow Dad. Italia. Okay? Good example. And America. And look at the costs.